Welcome to Off Ice Sense, a series dedicated to helping you level up your hockey skills and improve at home. My name is Dustin Smith, better known as Bones. I'm an NHL emergency backup goalie here in Nashville, Tennessee, and today we are diving into my 3 favorite ways to train as a goalie from home. We'll cover all the most important skills, including working on your mobility, boosting your cognitive skills, and enhancing your strength and cardio. So let's get into it. Goalie's mobility is one of the most important things to train at home. It really helps with your range of motion and helps your movement throughout your gameplay. And with the right mobility program, it can help reduce the risk of injury, which is huge, keeping you playing throughout a year. And of course, if there's anything I focus on during the off season, it is my mobility. And luckily, all we need for this is a lacrosse ball. Now, of course, you could use a tennis ball for this too, but let's go ahead and jump into my mobility drills.
To start, we're going to take our shoes off and we're going to use the lacrosse ball on the bottom of our feet and begin to roll them out for 30 seconds on each foot.
I know this doesn't look very glamorous, but honestly, it really is like magic, the amount of mobility that you gain just from rolling your feet out.
So you're just rolling from the base of your toes to the base of your heel, getting the entire bottom of your foot. And this kind of unlocks that chain through your calves and into your hamstrings. Next, we're going to pop down and release those hips. Starting with the upper glute, we're going to place the lacrosse ball or tennis ball up where the glute almost meets the pelvis, and you'll know when you found it. Then we'll pin it down and melt over the ball for about 30 seconds.
Again, this isn't very glamorous by any means, but this really is another one of those things that just really unlocks your mobility, and this is really kind of the best thing for me to start out with, moving into these other pieces of mobility training.
Then we'll move into the side of the hip, again finding that tender spot and pinning it down for 30 seconds before moving onto the front of the hip for another 30 seconds. And then of course we'll do the same thing on the other side, making sure we relax those muscles and really melt into the lacrosse ball. And if any of you are familiar with Maria Mountain and her channel Goalie Training Pro TV, you'll definitely recognize these drills, so I highly recommend looking her up if you haven't already.
All right, now that we got the lacrosse ball stuff out of the way, now we can kind of move into, it's not really like a yoga flow, it's more like a take on the world's greatest stretch. And this is by far my most favorite mobility training to do. And if you haven't heard of the world's greatest stretch, I highly recommend looking that up. But this is just kind of like my own personal modified version.
To kick this stretch off, we're going to start in the downward dog position and really feel a stretch in your hamstrings and calves before stepping one foot up next to your hand and reaching that hand up towards the ceiling and opening your chest. And then I like to switch hands and open up again before going back to that downward dog position, and then starting again with the other side. With this one, I typically like to run through this progression about 3 times, and by the time I'm done with this one, I'm usually feeling really good through my hips and my hamstrings.
All right, now finishing this off, we're gonna grab our lacrosse ball one more time. We're basically gonna go through a full range of motion through both of our hips.
Grabbing that lacrosse ball again and placing it behind your knee, we're gonna very slowly lift our knee up nice and high and then rotate our leg backwards, almost as if we're stepping back over a gate or short fence before swinging it down and then back up again. We really want to make sure we're moving nice and slow and getting that full range of motions through your hip, trying our best to stay balanced. We're going to do this 3 times, rotating backwards before changing it to the forward rotation. Again, making sure we're going nice and slow and really picking that knee up toward our chest. And then of course we'll switch legs and finish things off with 3 full rotations backwards and forwards.
Next, let's talk about brain power and those cognitive skills. And of course, my favorite way to do that is with NHL Sense Arena, which brings that on-ice training experience right to your living room. So let's dive into a few drills that have really helped me out the most.
Kicking things off, I'd like to start with the coach's drop drill. This one is a classic for improving your reaction time and requires you to place your hands in the circles before a puck is dropped for you to reach out and grab. And of course these drills give you live feedback, and I clearly need more work on this one. Up next is one of my favorite cognitive drills called the synchro reflex. This one is designed to improve your rhythmic skills by matching the boxes in front of you to the ones that light up a little further out. And in my opinion, this one almost seems to calibrate your motor skills. And the last drill is fast reflex. This one is also meant to improve your reaction time and your motor skills by reaching out for pucks as fast as possible as they pop up on the screen. You can even increase the difficulty by adding a screen player that obscures your view.
And my third tip for training at home as a goalie is building that strength and cardio with plyometrics. Building your endurance and physical abilities is a huge way to keep you sharp throughout a full game, and there are no better ways to help you become a more explosive goalie than with these plyo drills.
Now again, we are taking a page right out of Maria Mountain's book and starting things off with the drop squat. Starting with your hands up and elbows at a 90-degree angle, we're going to hammer down with our hands as we drop into a squat, and then we're going to land forcefully in a good squat position, making sure our knees are landing straight, our back is in a neutral position, and we're sitting deep in that squat. Focusing on all the details because, as Maria would say, our deceleration is the foundation of our acceleration. With this drop squat drill, you'll start with 2 sets of 4 to 6 repetitions, and you'll hold that bottom position for about 3 seconds, again focusing on all those fine details before moving on to the next plyometric drill, jump, squat, and stick. In this second drill, we're going to start with a drop squat just like we did before. We're going to hammer down, but this time we're going to hammer up and jump into the air, and then hammer down to a strong landing position and hold for 2 seconds. We want to try to run through this progression with as much speed as possible, jumping as high as possible, while also maintaining the same good habits from the drop squat drill. Another thing to note is that we're not trying to push to fatigue. We're trying to build speed and power to be explosive, so for this one, we're going to do 2 sets of 4, making sure we hold our landing for 2 seconds and getting rest between each rep. Up next is the lateral hop and stick. In this drill, we are starting out standing on our outside leg and then loading into a push to the other leg and quickly exploding off that leg and back to a 2-second hold before loading and pushing again. Imagine this movement as a pass moving across the ice, and we are pushing across our crease before the pass quickly moves back to the first position. With that in mind, we want to move our head, shoulders, and hands just like we would on the ice. Nice and controlled through the entire movement instead of waving them around to generate force like a runner or a speed skater. We also want to make sure we are absorbing and exploding through the hip, knee, and ankle before we explode across. Ideally, you want to absorb and explode as quickly as you can, as hard as you can, and then stick that landing. Finally, for this drill, we're going to do 2 to 4 sets of 3 repetitions on each side, making sure we get that 2-second hold before exploding into that next rep.
And there you have it, 3 ways to train off ice as a goalie. But of course, everyone has their own routines, everyone has their own superstitions. So what kind of routine do you go through? Do you have any kind of tips to help improve this kind of warm-up for anyone else watching this video? And of course, if you have any kind of topics you'd like to see covered in this series, let us know. Of course, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. But until next time, my name is Dustin Smith, better known as Bones. Keep training hard, and of course, we'll see you around.